Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you're watching another live edition of the LockerGnome Daily Report, or TLDR for short, your daily dose of geek news, product views, and answers that you can use. And I'm going to do my best to wrap all of those into one particular broadcast, because it's pretty much going to be about this device right here. This is my new iPhone 6, space gray, and I'm not saying that gold is not best, but now gold is not best. This is gold, but for me, gold is not best. What is best is space gray in a white box. This is the 128 gig version of the iPhone 6. I've been using the 64 gig gold version of the iPhone 6, well, ever since the day after launch day, so just about a week? It's been about a week? Or has it been a week? I kind of lose track of time. I moved from the iPhone 5S to the iPhone 6, and the reason why I went with the gold one initially, if you guys missed that during the live unboxing and initial impressions video, which was done last week, I'm pretty sure. The big difference, was it 2 weeks ago? The big difference between, well, you know the difference between the two devices, but the big difference for me in getting the device that I could, the gold version versus the space gray, which wasn't available because of a mistake that the Apple Store made, which they didn't really pay for. I ended up paying for it. The color, honestly, and I actually am going to factor that, or try to factor that, into my review of the iPhone 6, because I've never owned or wanted to own a white or a gold iOS device. If you asked me what my choice was for any device, and I would sit here and say black or gray or silver, well, not white silver, like silver, space gray, whatever Apple wants to call it, whatever any company would want to call it. So this is going to be moving on to Diana now, and we're going to be selling her iPhone 5S gold. She thinks gold is best, and she heard the rumor that the iPhone, I'm sorry, the iPad, the next iPad may very well come in a gold edition. Of course, she went gaga, or gold. She wants one. Like, but baby, you don't even. I mean, she uses her iPad now, but not like she thought she would. She more often than not is using her phone. So if anything, I think she would be very, very happy with a larger screen, which the iPhone 6 sports, not the 6 Plus. I've had a few people ask me, Chris, are you going to be getting the iPhone 6 Plus? No immediate plans, although I'd imagine that in the next iteration of the iPhone, it would be a possibility that I would jump to more of a phablet size, depending on how I get along with the iPhone 6 over the course of the next year. It's taking some getting used to, but it's more like a stepping stone, or I feel it's more like a stepping stone for me, going from a classic iPhone screen, really classic resolutions, optimized for single-hand usage, to devices with screens that just aren't optimized for single-handed usage. And I think that is something I think Apple can address potentially at some point in the future. I have been using the not space gray leather case from Apple with the gold and the gold. The gold. I love gold. Gold. And it's worked fine, honestly, and I like having this case on the phone, if only because I like black stuff, remember, not so much the gold, white stuff, but I recognized after I removed this case from this iPhone that I kind of forgot how nice the edges of the phone are. Like, as I'm scrolling through, they kind of taper off smoothly, just smooth. It's like, ooh, rounded corners. That's kind of neat. I like that. But I don't think I would like it enough to say, I'm going to shoe my case. No, I need to have a case on. I've fumbled with this phone with a case on, not dropping it, but fumbled enough that I just know I need to go that much further into the idea of protecting it. So I'm currently looking for different case and screen protection options for the iPhone 6. Would want to get an iPhone 6 Plus, and people saying, well, could you get an iPhone 6 Plus and bend it? Well, first of all, it's a really dumb idea. Second of all, sure, if you've got an iPhone 6 Plus lying around and you want me to use it, I'd be happy to. But I'm not going to do that on my own. I have to buy these devices, so I have to spend, money on things that I want, which most people do. You want something, you basically say, oh, here, you're worth this, or this is worth something. For example, with all the bonus videos that I put out there, almost 100 bonus videos and tons of daily bonuses, including insight that I don't normally share on YouTube or anywhere else, we've got supernomies, also known as patrons. And you can become one of the supernomies by heading over to chrispirillo.com. We're at 925 today. I don't know what it's going to take to get to 1,000. I'm hoping that Patreon could add more features to allow, dynamic live chat that we might be able to integrate in these videos and what have you. Now, for those wondering, this particular live broadcast should be shared for everybody. Anybody would be open to watch this. I didn't do a lot of teasing in social for this particular live broadcast, just to see who was paying attention, but it'll be here for posterity. So here you go. You've got some initial thoughts. Now that I got those out of the way, I would like to go ahead and roll forward with a few points that I wanted to make in relation to my experience with the iPhone 6, reminding everybody very kindly that this is my experience, my perspectives. You could accuse me of being biased, because, we all have different experiences. And I've learned that there are two type of people in this world. The type of people who can't speak correctly. There are two types of people who tend to watch videos on YouTube, specifically in relation to review videos. There are those who are looking for someone's opinion, and there are those looking for someone to validate their own opinion. So I just want to make this very clear. I'm addressing an audience, just a part of the people watching right now. I'm only wanting to address the people who really want to know my opinion. If you're looking for me to validate your opinion, you're looking in the wrong place. And if you're looking for a short video, I think we've blown well past that now. God, I haven't even begun the review. This is how I do things. I like talking. This is why I do videos so frequently, and why I hate editing video too, because I blah, 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 blah. And now getting into podcasting again on SoundCloud. I think they're going to be enabling a podcast where I'll be able to cover everything from tech stuff to geek stuff to family stuff to food stuff to stuff that is on my radar. So, I have to tell you about a special deal that I've been able to arrange for you if you happen to like deals. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Deals.LockerGnome.com. Daily deal every day as opposed to a daily deal every week. Who knows? Managing your IT support in your company needs attention. And those needs themselves can be challenging, especially when you have remote or mobile employees. And that's why I highly recommend Citrix GoToAssist, the #1 global market leader in remote support. This easy-to-use, cloud-based remote support solution allows you and your IT team to solve problems faster. And even if you are the IT team, you'll still solve problems faster. It's about the easiest tool I've ever used for remote support. And if you sign up for GoToAssist before October 10th, you'll get another Citrix product of your choice free for 6 months. GoToAssist remote support lets you provide live and unattended remote support to any computer or mobile device, screen share to diagnose and fix support problems faster and more effectively, and use GoToAssist apps to easily deliver support anytime, anywhere. If you work in IT, I want you to try GoToAssist. Just try it. Sign up for GoToAssist today and get another Citrix tool free for 6 months. Visit GoToAssist.com and get started, but don't wait. The special offer ends October 10th. Visit GoToAssist.com and sign up to receive this special offer today. Voila. Moving on. And if anybody says that anything that I've said to this point wasn't as important, they're really not paying attention, because I've been saying a lot of important things, Wicket. I'm talking to my dog now, because I can't talk to people who are watching the video stream live. I'm going to go ahead and unbox. Oh, hi, baby. And, baby, I got 2 babies in the room.
I asked her if she wanted to come watch, and she didn't respond, but I think she wants to listen.
Okay. That's my daughter. No, well, not talking. Diana, my wife, is talking for my daughter. All right, here we go. The unboxing. This is done differently by everybody. And to me, who was it? Kyle? Conyers? Was that his last name? I should not point sharp objects at things, especially with my daughter in the room. He was asking why his video didn't get much traction. What was it? Kyle? I apologize. There are a lot of people that I know online.
I know a Carl.
And he was, do you?
Online.
Well, there we go. I think everybody knows a Carl online. Hang on. Box fart, box fart, box fart, box fart, box fart, box fart. No box fart. Sorry. Did not wish to disappoint, but I did. No box fart there. You have to fill in your own sound effect that you kind of, and I just spit on the new phone. It's okay. I've got a little protective cover there in the unboxing. He was asking why is my unboxing not really getting much traction? Because if you don't put your personality into a video, why is anybody tuned in? I mean, there have been how many unboxings of products on YouTube to this point? Billions,
Yeah.
if not trillions. A lot. So what separates one from the other? And it usually boils down to personality and perspective. So there we go. The 128 gig, which so much nicer. So much nicer. Look at that. It's space grayer. Grayer? I don't want to say grayer. You like the gold?
Yeah.
Say, I like gold.
You know what I need?
But no, baby, you got to say it that way.
I like gold.
No, that was the worst gold member I think I've ever heard.
You know what I need to go with that?
What?
A gold iPad.
Told you. I told you, watching and tuned in.
You already said it.
Yes, I already said it. Oh, these scissors are dipped in gold. We need those.
Yeah.
Apple knows what they're doing. They really do. You're not getting a gold iPad. Huh? We got plenty of iPads right now. You use your phone more. You'll use this more than you use your iPad. Guaranteed, because it's got a bigger screen. So there you go. Oh, look, I unboxed it. It's the device that everybody can hold on to and touch, and you've probably seen a million times before. It feels the same. It looks similar, but it's not the same, because gold is no longer best. Space gray is best. You know what gold? No, gold is yesterday. You like space gray. Everyone wants space gray. Why? Space gray is now best. This is why. I just like it. Look, because to me, the screen just melts away with the black front. It just melts away, and I like that. Mm-hmm. Although I got to tell you, this is part of my review, the process. Even though this is the white, the front, the plate on the front there, it melted away too, but at a different level. I wasn't as annoyed by it as I thought I would be. It's still garish to me with the white and the gold. Hey, you're asking my taste. This is how I feel. But it melted away. I'll give the iPhone 6 that, or just about any i product or any particular mobile device, any device. It melted away. And so the bezel just didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. And I don't think that was mitigated necessarily by the case, which is a nice case, don't get me wrong. I think I like this case better than I like the iPhone 5S case, if only because the lip around the case extended just a bit, so just in case, there we go, pun intended, I accidentally dropped the phone in such a way that it could damage the screen or the phone in general, not just bend, but break it. I was happy to have that much more distance, maybe a millimeter of distance. There we go, millimeter, look, I'm American.
I agree with the color. I'm not a huge fan of the gold against the white. I would prefer to see a lighter gold or a black with gold.
Black with gold, not bad. I would use black with gold, but I prefer straight black. This is what I am. Don't be offended if this is your accent. I think it's a great accent. It's about the best accent I can do. My Russian accent, if that's to be Russian, is better than my Italian accent, and I'm Italian. Well, you're partially Italian and partially Mexican, so I expect great things from you. So, when did this come out? Was it last week? Have I only had this a week?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks?
Yeah. Around her age.
Was it really? I don't know. I've lost track of time. This is what happens when you have a baby. You just don't care about anything else. You just care about the baby. So I do much prefer this style for a gadget than this absolutely every single time, and I'm going to be using it for a year. I want to be happy. With any gadget, I would hope everybody would be happy. So my initial impressions haven't really changed all that much between going from a 5S. I'm going to hold this one up to the 6 and using this 6. Well, maybe in a few years. By the time you're old enough to have a smart device, will be like 12 generations into the future. So you gotta wait until you're mature enough to handle it emotionally, because that's where you should be emotionally. Emotional maturity is probably more important than your age, because I've met more emotionally mature 13-year-olds than I've met 33-year-olds. So age has nothing to do with your maturity level. So I would say I like the iPhone 6, but I'm not bowled over by it in moving from the 5S or previous gen iPhones. It's been incremental in terms of changes, and I think it's how do I frame this the right way? Some people accuse Apple of not innovating. I think that is inaccurate. I think Apple is innovating. I think they're moving the ball forward in a speed at which they should be moving the ball forward in terms of what they're adding and what they're doing. I think some people expect dramatic leaps and bounds between generations of products, and it just does not work that way. And anybody who's short-sighted wouldn't be able to explain that to you. But it's the analogy I would make is you got a pot of boiling water, you throw a frog into it, the frog, oh, it's boiling, it jumps out, versus acclimating that frog to change over time and turning up the fire or the intensity of the flames slowly so the frog ends up boiling. Now, I'm not saying that all smartphone users are frogs waiting to be boiled, but I'm saying that change comes over time. And when you've got a gadget that's successful, let's face it, the iPhone's been successful, a lot of gadgets from various companies have been successful in the past, you can't change them too much. Okay, let's talk about Windows for a second. And yes, I'm talking about Windows in my iPhone 6 review. Windows 8 came along. It was too radically different compared to Windows 7. Well, Microsoft did an about-face with Windows 10, and we've just now seen the beginnings of Windows 10, but it's pretty much the Windows edition saying that, yeah, we kind of messed up Windows 8. Sorry about that. Here's a new version of Windows that should work better for you, especially if you like Windows 7, and a lot of people like Windows 7. Too much change can be catastrophic to any product. Any product. Whether we're talking about an open source product or a not open source product or any product, any service. Too much change, too rapidly. Bad. So that's what really drives me nuts when I see people, oh, this company's not innovating. I don't know if you know this, but you know, innovation isn't necessarily measured in years. Innovation could be very well measured in decades. Now, that's not to say I wouldn't want new features. It's not to say I wouldn't want a better experience with every passing year. In fact, I've kind of come to expect it. But, and this is very much a part of my experience, and I'm not the only one. I spoke to this yesterday during the live TLDR broadcast as well. See, if you expected me just to talk about the device, I know I'm disappointing you, but hopefully I'm not. Hopefully this is good stuff for you. I tend to think beyond one gadget. You know, I tend to think of general overarching themes. And I think if Apple is lacking, and this very much feels this way with the iPhone 6, even with the software revisions that they've already pushed out, 8.0.1, which was almost catastrophic. They pulled it back. It was catastrophic for some, but they were the problems that they issued were corrected. With 8.0.2 about a day later. So even in going with the latest version of the software, Apple just seems to be missing a mark that Tim Cook is not cut out to hit. And that's not to say he hasn't done a fantastic job as CEO. I don't think Steve Jobs could have found a better person. In terms of Tim's experience in the industry and working with supply chain management and keeping a company rolling forward, especially in light with the loss of a leader who was really in his prime. Whether you agreed or liked anything Apple did under Steve Jobs, you cannot deny that Steve Jobs has influenced just about everything that we're using today. Like it or not. But that's the thing. You want competition. Competition keeps everybody healthy. The moment that you don't have competition, that's where innovation stagnates. So that's when you can talk to me and lecture me on, oh, they're not innovating. I don't think people who throw that around really understand what innovation is or what it takes. So to me, the shortcoming of that Apple has right now is not necessarily in its leadership. It's specifically in a certain lacking that could readily and easily be corrected. Quality control. That is what's missing from Apple right now. They're doing things well enough, but quality control, I think, is that one thing that's missing. Every company is going to run into hurdles and make mistakes, and it's just going to happen. There are going to be oversights. But that's the one thing that I think has kept people within Apple's ecosystem or even driven them to Apple's ecosystem is the feeling of quality, and in some cases experiencing that quality in relation to other companies. Apple has no parallel, and it's disappointing. I wish Apple did have a parallel, but it's more than just one device versus another, which I kind of have to explain to people over and over and over again. They still don't seem to understand that, and I've explained it at length, and I may get into it again here. Quality control is what's lacking at Apple. Things that you may have experienced with other devices, if you're experiencing them within Apple's world, it's not new to the world of hardware and software, but we expect more from Apple. And Apple, I think, if they've slipped anywhere, it ain't in market share, it ain't in mind share. I think it's in quality control. I really do. More with the software and service side of things, as in iCloud. Not necessarily the customer support one might get, that kind of service. I think they're slipping in terms of having someone in charge of making sure that the product ships, and even though it's going to have bugs, it ships in such a fashion that nobody has anything to necessarily complain about in terms of what was executed upon. And it seems to me that they've rolled out new versions of iOS, starting with iOS 7, and have yet to address a lot of sloppiness that I see. And I'm not the only one who sees it. I'm not. Some people don't see it, and that's fine. If you don't see it, you count yourself so lucky. So lucky. But that's the problem, is that those of us who do see it can't unsee it. And that's not what we expect from Apple. And I think that is, if anything, is going to be revolutionary for Apple. I think it's putting in, a chief executive quality control officer. I really do. I think it's lacking across the board, and I'd rather have fewer features and more fixes in place. I would never want to see a mistake outright and feel that I had a better product, even though it wasn't as feature rich as I might have liked. I'd rather have a more complete product and a more complete experience. And part of that is eliminating these issues that so many of us see, like the folder popping bug. I've explained this so many times. Apparently, it was even in iOS 7 in later builds. In iOS 8, right now, if you expand a folder, the beauty of the way they... And I didn't find an issue with this. The beauty of the way they re-implemented folder structures in iOS 7 and 8 is one icon basically expanded with small, 9 thumbnails, expanded into a larger one seamlessly. I'm like, okay, that makes sense, because you're within the same... It wasn't jarring. It fit. It worked. I really liked the way that they implemented it. Well, in iOS 8 specifically, when that smaller icon gets to be a bigger icon, it shouldn't change states other than size. Well, the problem is as it expands, as it finishes its expansion, you see the folder, each of the 4 corners pop. And if you don't see it, I can't tell you to see it. I mean, you probably don't see bugs on any platform. Trust me, if they fix it, you won't know they fixed it. But I notice those small things. It's the people that don't notice those small things that I'm concerned about, especially if those are the people who are handing out reviews. Like, dude, can you not see this? Like, can you not understand how this takes away from the overall fit and finish of the product? It's not just the rounded edges or the chamfered edges. It's the software that comes with it. It's the software that powers the thing. And you can't separate the software from the hardware. You just cannot. So, I hate to be called someone who bashes, but I do think that Apple needs to be called out, called to task, taken to task on some of these oversights that are inexcusable for any company, inexcusable, but certainly for Apple. So, I wouldn't say that I did not like the iPhone 6. If there was anything that I kind of feel is lacking, it's a departure from everything that made earlier iPhones nice. And I don't just mean in software, because I was not a fan of iOS 7, still not a fan of iOS 8. Single-handed use. You'd be surprised at how frequently this becomes very valuable. And maybe you're not used to it. Maybe you've already moved on. Maybe a bigger screen is more valuable to you. Valuable? Valuable to you. Maybe a longer battery life is better for you. I mean, everyone's wanting something different. But I do believe that Apple would serve their market well when the 6S rolls around, or whatever the hell they're going to call it, when it rolls around, instead of having just two options, large and extra large, I would really appreciate it if they basically engineered a smaller device, whether they called it a mini, a nano, a micro, whatever, in the next iteration of the iPhone, or iterations. Because I think that there's a market that's just as well served with this size of a device as this size of a device. And they went bigger, but they cut off their small market. And I've seen enough people online basically say the same thing. Like, Apple, I really like that single-handed usage, and that's the one. I do miss it. I do. I miss it more than I appreciate a bigger screen. And I think that's very telling. Is that going to send me back to the 5S? No, I don't think so. I really appreciate having 802.11 AC support on the iPhone 6. Works very, very well. I'm on, enough wireless networks that support the protocol. So, faster Wi-Fi for me. The camera is better, they say. I don't know if I could see the difference between a 5S shot and a 6. In some cases, the 5S shots are better than the 6. Now, the the iPhone 6 Plus versus the 6, or even the 5S, should be dramatically different, especially in low light situations. If there was one thing that was going to drive me to a 6 Plus, it would be the optical image stabilization in the 6 Plus camera. Nothing else, for no other reason. No other reason. And maybe next year I'll be ready for more of a phablet as a daily driver on iOS. But part of my initial impressions have also been tied into apps. A lot of apps available for iOS. Some of the apps I'm running are still, some of the first apps I ever downloaded onto iOS, or the iPhone OS, as it was once called. The interesting thing is that the apps still work, but you can definitely tell some are unoptimized. And I'm having an issue with that on a slightly bigger screen. I can only imagine having an issue with that on a much larger screen compared to the 5S. And I think that takes away from experience, if only because of this. And I do believe I spoke to this at some point, maybe not in my initial impressions, but beyond. I'm inside of messages. I'm typing in a message using the keyboard. I've got muscle memory. Then I jump over to another application, and I'm typing on its keyboard. Well, the keyboards are different sizes. So my muscle memory has to remap itself on the same device a second later. And that's an issue. It's a usability issue. I don't know if Apple could have mitigated that or managed it any better than they did. It's just an issue, which is less of an issue if you're running apps that don't necessarily require resolution dependent support. If you're playing a game, you're probably not going to see the difference. But in terms of productivity or using the keyboard in general, apps have got to be updated. Some will, some won't. A year from now, I would expect most of the leading apps to be updated for the newer resolutions of iOS, and supporting those resolutions natively rather than just kind of blowing them up. It hasn't been a nightmare, but it's a different type of fragmentation that I do believe iOS users have to deal with in a different way than Android users would have to deal with fragmentation of Android. But it's fragmentation, just a different type of fragmentation. The apps still work. It's just that they're optimized seemingly for different devices. I didn't mind holding the 6. It was never an issue. I could still use it with one hand, and frequently but would inevitably find myself using it with two hands. At which point I'd start to question, well, why am I with the 6? Why didn't you just go with the 6 Plus? Why? Apart from potential structural issues, which have plagued a handful of users compared to the millions who purchased the devices, but beyond that, usability. If I'm finding myself gravitating towards using the device with two hands, there's no value in using it with one hand. I can still use this device with one hand if I'm scrolling, typing something out. I did not mind how the 6 felt or how it feels in my hands. Good balance, very lightweight, wonderful screen. The fact that I don't wear sunglasses as much as many of you do, but if you wear polarized sunglasses, you'll note that the screen doesn't give you twisty-turny rainbows like you might see in other smartphone screens or tablet screens. It's kind of neat, little bonus there if you happen to be one who wears sunglasses. I don't. But the overall feel, it's a good phone. It really feels like a good smartphone. Here's here's my bit of feedback for Apple, and I understand why they made the decision. They were going for a svelte design, something that was thin, so they could brag, oh, we're the thinnest, and this is this and this is this. Well, by doing that, that caused the lens to protrude ever so slightly from the rest of the body, just a little protrusion of a lens. I understand why Apple went that way, because there were two ways they could have gone. They could have, gone with a lesser camera, or a lens, I should say, or apparatus. They could have bulked up the phone and to make it flush, or they could have gone this route. So I understand why they went this route, but honestly, if I could have gotten better battery life, if I could have had optical image stabilization, if I could have, saved myself the time and headache of watching people intentionally bend their iPhones, I would have preferred they'd gone the other route in having a thicker device. I'd have been happier with that. I wouldn't have complained. I really wouldn't have complained. Because, I'm the type of person that, to me, how have I put this in the past? Like, my life revolves around technology, not the other way around. Wait, no, technology. I screwed up my own quote. Technology revolves around. What I'm saying is that my life does not revolve around technology. Technology revolves around my life. So I tend to not geek out and nerd out over hardware as much, which I guess makes me completely different from every other nerd on YouTube. I'm so lightweight and all. Hey, great, awesome. It looks nice, feels great. But the hardware is nice. But see, like, people complain about the bands in the back, and doesn't bother me. Looks fine. Looks cool. I don't know. I'm not a hardware guy as much. There are times that I want, a nice piece of hardware, but it's not what I geek out about. So the design, I think, could have gone a different route, and Apple would have, had a different set of issues potentially on their hands. But I would have preferred that. I think I really would have preferred that, and not because of any kind of rocking that might happen, because you could not set the phone flat. I'm pushing it down there, doing that because the little protruding lens. Having a case mitigates that, so it's really less of an issue. In terms of options on the phone, I mean, it's an iOS device. Its most powerful option is yet to be unleashed, and suggestions seem to indicate that the next point version of iOS 8, aka iOS 8.1, will be available within the month, which is pretty neat. And with that should come the first iteration of Apple Pay, which I am excited to use, and I'm hoping that more vendors support it, if only because it seems like a substantially more secure way of processing credit card transactions. And with as much as we might use those on a regular basis, hey, I don't think anybody would argue with something that's more secure and easier. And so I think it's a potential huge win. And with iOS 8.1, I would hope to see a bevy of fixes on bugs that have plagued us, not just UX and UI bugs, but system-level bugs like Bluetooth issues some people have had, especially in relation with pairing their Bluetooth device with their car, their iOS 8 device with their car. Some people are having issues. But in terms of general options, the speaker sounds fine. The microphone is great. I recorded a sample podcast on my SoundCloud account. John Prosser from Front Page Tech tweaked it in Adobe Audition, I believe, made it sound even better. The microphone works. Seemingly, I could probably do a better job at recording higher quality audio in a podcasting arrangement, but it's just simple. So the mic works, or the mics work. The options, of course, the accessories are, never ending, seemingly. Like I have a lot of options at my disposal for screen protection, for cases. Can't wait to take a look at some battery packs. I'm always a fan of extending battery life without necessarily sacrificing other things. And so I would hope that would stay true, and I believe it will. Apple's got a great third-party ecosystem to support. The power option, it didn't take too long for me to remember that power is now on the side versus the top. It took maybe a couple days, and then I was like, okay, yeah, it's on the side. Not a big deal. But in terms of what I would need in a smartphone, people ask, well, what more would you want? I don't know. A projector would be cool. Optical image stabilization would be great. But I think if I had to put my wish out there, I would have wished that the iPhone 6 had optical image stabilization, not just the 6 Plus. I really don't know the technical reasons why they didn't ship the optical image stabilization in the 6. I don't know. I can't imagine it taking that much more battery life, but you never know. But in terms of options, software is still in the process of getting updated to support these screen resolutions. The phone itself, it's an iPhone, but I would say it's probably the big. It was a bigger leap for me to go from a 5S to a 6 than it was to go from a 4S to a 5. Bigger leap, because that single-handed usage, I think it was an option that I really appreciated in earlier iOS devices, and maybe I'm alone in that. And I don't think I am. I mean, I know I'm not alone in that, but I feel that there's something that was taken away from it, and I color me someone who just doesn't necessarily need to have a big screen at this point in time. That may change, especially with the using. In terms of responsiveness, the iPhone 6, yes, is spec'd out faster than the 5S, empirically. It doesn't feel any faster than the 5S. Maybe a bit here and there, a little faster, but it doesn't feel, or you just largely faster. Like normally, I'm like, oh yeah, that was definitely, that was good. That was definitely faster now than it was before. I don't see any speed increases. Perceivably. So iOS 8, I think, still has so much stutter in places, especially, and I know this is not an iPad review, but on the iPad Air, I see so much stutter, it's not even funny. It's not funny, it's sad, really. This is something I've slagged Android for, and on Android, it's actually gotten better, substantially. I mean, it still exists on everything, and it once did not exist in such a way on iOS, and with iOS 7 and 8, Apple's introduced stutter in terms of responsiveness. Now, they did fix a couple of the stuttery issues that I experienced in the 6 with the weather app. That is now a smoother animation in iOS 8.0.2. Good for them. Any other stutter I've seen has been in different pockets. Scrolling, sometimes there will be some stutter. And I don't... Someone had reminded me I shouldn't use that word, jitteriness, like the jumpiness, jerkiness. I'm not trying to offend anybody who does stutter, and that's the word that's usually associated with that particular, I guess, thing, for the lack of a better word, that someone might go through. So responsiveness is less tied into hardware and more tied into software, and I think that iOS is yet to be optimized. All I want in iOS 9 is a fully optimized OS. I don't even want new features. Here, Apple, I'm going to say this, and you're anybody listening is welcome to disagree. All I want in iOS 9 is a more responsive OS. I just want it. I don't want new features. I just want it faster, more responsive. That's it. No stutter. No sloppiness. That's all I want in iOS 9. Slop free. That's all I ask. That's no new features, Apple. Just fix the bugs. Please, fix the bugs. It'd be great. Then you can add features in 9.1. Can we agree? Can we agree to that? How does that sound? So responsiveness, I'd give it a solid B, maybe B+. I've seen too many drop frames in random spots that I just should not see on an iPhone 6. iPhone 4, I'd expect it. 4S, I'd expect it. Even 5, possibly expect it. On a 6? No. I think it speaks to the lack of optimization. And if you don't see it, again, congratulations. I mean, honestly, that's awesome for you. You don't see those things. I do. And they're issues. And I'm not the only one who sees them. Like on the... I just... Why? It drives me up the wall. All right. Let me go ahead and click this to give all these people credit. I do this every broadcast. You can get your name in there. It's a certain pledge level. I do plan on doing another Hangout at some point this week. Possibly the Hangout may end up being like a snack time in the vlog channel. Oh, I forgot the rest of the unboxing. Look, it's the rest of the accessories that you get. Oh, and the instructions and a sticker and a plastic tray. There, now I've covered that. The screen on the iPhone 6 is ample. And if you're moving from, let's say, a Galaxy an S4, S5, S3, you're moving from that to an iPhone 6, I think you're going to be happy because you're going to be taking a step sideways, I think, in terms of screen usability. But as much as it's a quote unquote better screen, I don't know, there's just something to be said about the compact nature of the classic screens of the iPhone. I'm serious. I wonder what would happen if Apple released a classic version of a screen that obviously is still being supported. In the next iteration, but maybe they're done with the small stuff. I think it would be smart. Why not? Because I'm not Apple, that's why not. But the screen performed well. Never had an issue with crispness of text, of images, of video. I wouldn't say that, to my eyes, it looked any different in a vibrancy capacity, or blacks or whites, any different on the 6 compared to the 5S. Some people can see the differences. I can see subtle differences, but I wouldn't say like night and day. Now, there would be a possibility that I'd answer that differently if I went from, or if I was talking about specifically the iPhone 6 Plus, which has a higher PPI, certainly a higher resolution, a bigger screen, but I'm not. I'm talking about the 6, because that's all I have any experience with. I haven't even touched a 6 Plus yet. Haven't touched one. Just haven't done it. Haven't even walked into an Apple store lately. Now, in terms of audio, it's been ample, as I kind of spoke to you earlier. In playing music on the speaker, I didn't hear too much distortion. I knew that it felt like, or it sounded like it was a different vibrator, when it vibrates. Sometimes it's muted. Sometimes the vibration's so muted, and I think it's possibly that the case mitigates the vibration. I almost don't hear it. Sometimes I miss notifications. I almost wish that it was a stronger vibration or alert in the iPhone 6. But like I said, I think some of the attenuation of the vibration intensity is due to putting a case on it. But, I'm not an audiophile. I just did not have any issues with audio. With cameras, now a lot of people have been asking about that. Let me kick in the screensaver. This is open source. Electric Sheep. It's also cross-platform, including iOS and Android. Wait, it's iOS, isn't it? I think it is. The Scott Draves, also known as Spot, works at Google or used to work at Google. Amazing guy. I was expecting more from the camera on the 6, and I'm disappointed in that I still find myself in the same pattern as I've been with earlier iOS devices, having to take 74 pictures just to get the right one. No blur, crispness, and it's. I think that would be helped immensely by an optical image stabilization feature on the lens with the camera, and so the cameras I wouldn't say were far and away better-ish, but I still found a lot of indoor shots suffering from blur, slight blur. But again, I just that's it. I really wish I could speak to the camera, in a nicer way, but it's an upgrade, I guess. Focus Pixels seems to work, insanely well. The video recording works very well, but I wouldn't say that the differences were night and day with the camera on between the 5S and the 6. It's nice, but I would not say something that you need to rush out and absolutely upgrade to. The differences are very, very subtle, and in many cases, I found myself plagued with the same issues that I've had with earlier iOS cameras. I would hope that would be mitigated with optical image stabilization, which one could hope is coming down the pike at some point for all iOS devices, not just or specifically handhelds, not just the Plus. Battery life. Initially, I was having massive issues, and I don't know what happened. It wasn't the software update, but I was having issues with the Mail app. It was sucking battery like you wouldn't believe. There was something that was going on, and it just magically fixed itself. And from that point on, I would say battery life's fair. I feel like I'm getting just as much battery life out of the 6 as I was the 5S. Maybe it's slightly better, if anything, on average days use. Not anything night and day. Not anything dramatic. I think there would definitely be, and according to reports, and certainly empirically speaking, because of a bigger battery, better battery life on the 6 Plus compared to the 6. But in terms of battery life on the 6, average. If not maybe right around the same battery life as I had come to expect from the 5S. Again, this is something that I think could have been helped by having, compromising in some capacity instead of going for thinness. That much more battery could have given me another hour And I would have been happy with that. Who wouldn't have been happy with that? I think I've been happy. I'd be happy to make that trade-off. And it wouldn't turn it into a brick. It'd still be, I'm sure, relatively lightweight. But some people perceive, that as, why would I get a heavier device? I want a thinner device. Why would I want to upgrade from this to something that's, massively different in terms of weight? I don't know. I guess it's just different for me. I want different things from my smartphone. There's really no bonuses, so to speak, with the 6, other than the nice things that you might get in tow: the Touch ID, the NFC, 802.11 AC support, higher resolution, maybe the same PPI as what you had before, but a larger screen. It's faster than older phones, but is it better? Depends on what you need. Depends on what you want. I wouldn't say that it's a clear winner as an upgrade. If you are fine with your 5S, I wouldn't say rush out to upgrade. And that's not to say that the iPhone 6 is horrible, because it isn't. It is not a horrible device. I've definitely used worse. But I wouldn't also go as far as to say it's amazing. And I think to put a finer point on that, I think the software is what's crippling the iPhone now. Quality control on the software front is what cripples the iPhone. And I think that speaks to just, well, why would you upgrade to new hardware if it's not just absolutely better in every way, and what in terms of what you might need, what you might want. But do not upgrade to this phone if you still like single-handed usage of a phone, which I that's a huge disappointment for me. Integrations seem to be fine. I mean, I've used iOS for eons. It's getting easier and easier to bring a new iOS device into the fray. Interoperates with everything pretty much seamlessly. Fantastic ecosystem. The experience overall, B. I give, honestly, in everything that I've said to this point, it is not an A experience on an iPhone or really any device. It's not Apple didn't bring its A game, and I think more of that is less about my personal proclivities of really appreciating a single-handed usage for a device, and more in just seeing so many problems with iOS 8 and sloppiness in iOS 8, and I think it takes it down a notch. It really does. And so my feeling is it's square in the B territory right now. That's my feeling this week. It may change in another week. In terms of value, well, for a 128 gig device, I think it's valuable. I'm going to be using it for the next year. This is going to be a primary pocket computer, and I sell my old phones to be able to cover the cost of new ones. And that's usually how I'm able to do upgrades. But in terms of value, how do I frame this? The iPhone 6. If you're using an iPhone 4 or 4S or 5, I think a 6 upgrade is valuable. And in terms of what you get from that upgrade, I think you're going to be happy. The 5S is not as compelling of an upgrade. In terms of value. And remember, value just isn't about how much it costs at all. There's a lot more that goes into it, because I've spent $10 on something that I felt was expensive because it was a piece of junk, and I've spent $100 on something that was amazing, and I felt like they could have charged me more, and I'd have been just as happy. So value has nothing to do with dollar amount. Anybody who doesn't understand that, again, they seem to lack perspective. It's not just about the dollar amount. It's about the value you get from it. And even using it for a week, I think it'd be very difficult for me to move back to the 5S. It would be. I could. But there was nothing that was necessarily pushing me that direction, because I'd still be dealing with iOS, which is disappointing. In terms of overarching value, I think that's going to become more apparent when Apple Pay is released. But of course, I think Apple Pay will also be supporting the Touch ID on the 5S. The more features that Apple rolls out in relation to iOS and the hardware these features would support, I think it becomes more and more valuable. So this becomes more valuable with Apple Pay. This becomes more valuable when more vendors support Apple Pay, and they've already got a pretty good laundry list of vendors who will be supporting it, to the point where if given a choice between going between one vendor and another, I would go to a vendor that supported Apple Pay, because it's easier, it's more convenient. I'd go that route. I mean, just like I'm driving along, I'm like, do I pay cash for gas or do I pay by credit card? I'll pay by credit card. It's just easier. People pay for convenience. Convenience is not to be understated. So the value, I think, is going to increase over time. And it becomes more valuable the more iOS devices you have. Like with the ability to, I'm sitting here and I've got notes pulled up on my iPad, and I'm kind of running past a review rubric, and normally I'd see like the ability to switch to that open note that I've got open on my Wi-Fi connected iPad. Now I had to relaunch it, but now I get the option of using that application on my phone that quickly. I mean, it works. The idea of continuity really, really works. So it becomes more valuable the more iOS devices you have. When you upgrade to Yosemite, this device becomes more valuable than what it is physically or what it is on its own. That speaks to the value. So a year from now, even with the same device, I could very well upgrade, even with the same software, with the different features and different implementation within an archipelago of experiences. There you go. Said the word. I think it's a drinking game. Every time I say archipelago, I use that word because it's the best word to describe, an experience or range of devices within an ecosystem. I may upgrade to a B+ or even an A. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to be using that yet. I can tell you when I get a phone call and it pops up on my iPad, I'm like, what? It's kind of neat. It's that neat factor. I like that. I really do. Sorry, I didn't mean to trip that. I had my keyboard down here. Took it out of the way. So the value may increase the more features that I'm able to use. Very much looking forward to Yosemite. Do not have a beta of that. Very much looking forward to the updates that Apple's pushing down the pike, the new features. I'm not even taking full advantage of everything that iOS has to offer because a lot of the developers out there have not yet taken advantage of everything that iOS 8 has to offer. So I expect it to get more and more valuable over time, not less valuable. So it can only increase, only get better. So things I like, things I didn't like, who's this for, who is this not for, and then I'll go ahead and wrap up now that I've been babbling for about an hour. Chris is not known for his shortness, other than his height. I am short. But in terms of blah, 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 the things I like. When I have to sigh before I got to pick this one up because it's the one I've been using. I do like how it was designed. I like the rounded edges. I really do. I like Touch ID. I wish that more apps would take advantage of Touch ID. Very, very convenient. I love Lightning because it's reversible, and we'll mitigate that eventually with USB in general. But for now, I mean, it's nice to not have to go fumble. I did appreciate a larger screen when I was viewing any kind of media or reading anything. I appreciated a larger screen. That's when I appreciated a larger screen. So I did appreciate that. Things I didn't like. The camera wasn't as impressive as I would have hoped it would be. I still had issue with a lot of blurry indoor shots, even with a steady hand. That's something that I wish Apple would have been able to adjust in the 6. I also I spoke to the not liking iOS 8. I tolerate it and its sloppiness, but they need to issue a massive amount of bug fixes. Things I didn't like. Didn't like the fact that it was very awkward to use single-handedly. It took away from the experience because I was used to using it with a single hand, and I've kind of had to train myself away from that, which may end up pushing me to a Plus edition at any point in the future. Who is this for? The iPhone 6 is for someone who doesn't have a problem with iOS, someone who appreciates Apple's approach to experiences, someone who already has a Mac and uses OS X on it, someone who has an iPad and likes it, someone who has an older iPhone and likes the older iPhone for the software, not necessarily the screen size. That's who this device is for. Who is this not for? The iPhone 6 is not for someone who appreciates single-handed usage of a phone. It is not for someone who is more than just content with their current device, specifically, from iPhone 5S on down. It's not for people who would want a large screen. If you want a large screen, just go 6 Plus. Really. I mean, within the iOS family, of course. And I don't have the experience of that. I'm not going to spend money on something that I may not use on a daily basis as intensely as I might a daily driver for iOS. So this is not for everybody. It's just not. And no device is for everybody. And this is what always throws me off. Anytime, and because I've had 2 friends on social throw out to their friends, their own friends and community, oh, should I go iPhone 6 or 6 Plus? And so many people just not listening to the question. They're asking 6 or 6 Plus. That's what the person's asking about. And yet everybody tells these people what they want, not what they're asking about. So it's if anybody is sitting there and telling you this is a product for everybody, they're wrong. There is no product for everybody. There just isn't. And you'll never hear me say otherwise. It's impossible. So many choices. It's just not for everybody, including existing iOS customers. So, I'm fine in saying that I'm feeling 4-star-ish with the iPhone 6 in square B territory, and that may change 6 months from now, a year from now. Who knows? But thank you. I do appreciate you listening all the way, if you did listen, rather than just listening to the voice inside your head. And I have to say that because some people do. They don't quite understand. Just checking out some of the comments, which I probably should not do. It's funny. People say, oh, what if someone gets your fingerprint? Dude, they'd have to have A, the device, B, your fingerprint, C, all the equipment. At that point, it's not scalable. It doesn't scale. Like, what are the chances? It could happen. It absolutely could happen. But the chances are not as high as, going after millions of data points versus a couple of data points. There's a dramatic difference between the two. And that's I look at that realistically, and Apple's put a lot more security measures in place in recent weeks, and I'm very grateful for that. It has curbed a lot of my service use in terms of how companies approach security, and Apple could definitely go a lot further, as could any company. I always look forward to knowing and feeling like they're doing everything in their power to keep me protected if I choose to live inside of their ecosystem. Any company. That's not just Apple. It's any company. So I really believe that it's getting more and more interesting in this time period with a lot of devices looking like other devices and working like other devices. That's good. Competition is healthy. You want that. The question is where could one company do clearly better than another? Which arena could one company do clearly better than another? And I think you don't need look much further than a company's business model. And I think one of the bigger challenges that Google's going to have in the years to come isn't getting its device into more hands. It was the writing was on the wall when Android was first released. And like, okay, they're taking a business model like Windows, license the OS, and only not exactly like Windows, but in the sense of, hey, you use that here, just use this, put it on your device, because Google doesn't make its money there. Google makes its money with ads and selling data effectively. So the biggest differentiator, and I think moving forward, is not necessarily in features. It's not even in the implementation of features. I think privacy is going to be a big one. Not just security, just privacy in general is going to be a big one. And Apple's got a leg up. I think Google's going to have a very difficult time saying, oh, no, we'll keep you private. But your business model is kind of the antithesis of it. It's like you're serving up ads. Apple has iAd, it just never took off. Apple doesn't make money in ads. They've come out and said this. I'm like, it's a good frontier. I think privacy is as much a feature as interactive notifications. You may not think about it, but it could still be something that's very valuable, intangible, but valuable nonetheless. So I look forward to seeing platforms leapfrog each other in terms of engagement and adoption. Competition is a good thing to have. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Ryan Bragg, one of my supernomies, asks if I'm going to Oh, that's right. I pulled out a Android-based device. I received this the same day. I bought this with some Amazon gift cards. I earn Amazon gift cards. You can too. US, UK, iOS, Android. Go.tagjag.com/free apps. Go.tagjag.com/free points. You get bonus points if you use my links as referrals. I've got them in the video description for you. I got this today too. $100 or something like crazy. This is now based on Android KitKat. Going to be trying this tomorrow. I'll be doing an unboxing of this during TLDR, which won't be live for everybody, but just for the Super Nomies. But everybody will be able to tune in and watch it. So look forward to more product views in the rest of the week. I also want to thank Salandrian for sending this fan art. Jedi, my daughter, her first fan art, all the way from, I believe, Sweden is where Salandrian's based. That's Jedi. So adorable. Love it. This is the original, too. So neat. I love it. It's so cool. Love electronics, but that's exciting for me because it comes from the heart. I like things that come from the heart. That's me. I'm sentimental. So that is really where I feel like I need to go from here. And so thank you again for your support. I appreciate everything that you're doing. I hope you're having a good day, a good week, and I hope you're happy. And if you're not happy, I hope you do whatever you can to find your happiness, so long as it doesn't come at the cost of somebody else's happiness. Because once you cross that line, you're not doing good things. Find your happiness, and don't stop at anything until you find it. Know this: if you respect me, I absolutely respect you in return. If nobody told you today that they love you and they appreciate you as a human being, let me be the first and potentially only one to tell you. I do love you and I do appreciate you. And not many people would say that, and with a straight face. It's something that's genuine. I think that one thing that's missing in the world of technology and the internet is a deeper connection with people. So thank you. If you listened this far into the video, I just cannot imagine you having a modicum of respect for me. And so in return, I give you an equal amount of respect that you've given me. Thanks again. Hope you're watching the videos, subscribing to this YouTube channel, watching the daily vlogs. Those are still fun to do. And if you can, just decide that some of the stuff I do is worth more than a cup of coffee for you once a month. Become one of the Super Nomies. Become a patron. Get tons of bonuses. In fact, now I've got to do the Q&A with you and me. I do basically a separate video every week. What have you learned this week? Okay, that's the question I'm going to answer in a separate video, an exclusive video. This is the question asked of me. I love doing AMA. AMA is fun. Is that tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow's the AMA, so look for the open thread on my Facebook page right now to ask your questions. I will be answering. That's a large part of the podcast that I plan on doing is going to be based on an AMA style, answering your questions every day and having fun and being me. So long as you're being you, because that's what makes the world fun. Let's not be the same, though. Let's be different. Not just think different. I'm not going to borrow that. That's apples. Here I go. That's it. At this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.